All right, hello and welcome back. It's your boy Hank Hackerson at Hank Hacks Hackers. We are going down the SOC Analyst Level 1 pathway, and we're going to be reviewing NetworkMiner today, which is an analysis tool that has some sniffing features, as you'll see in a little bit. I actually tried to do this yesterday, but unfortunately there were some glitches with the machine, so hopefully this time around it'll actually work more smoothly and we'll be able to go through the content easier and be able to actually pull up all of the answers and kind of give you a good demonstration of how NetworkMiner looks and how it works. This particular room is a subscribers only room, and it requires a VIP or a paid membership to TryHackMe, which costs $12. If you use the link in the description below, it costs $5, or excuse me, you'll get a $5 discount, which will make it $7. And you just get access to a lot of other features as well, and a lot of other rooms and virtual machines and everything like that with your paid subscription. So it's a great deal. It's a great subscription. You'll get a lot out of it, and yeah, it's very easy to start and learn hacking and security analysis and all of that good stuff. If you want to just follow along on your own computer, you're more than welcome to do so. Or I release a video at least once a day, or I try to at least release one once a day. So if you like and subscribe, and of course turn on the notification bell, you'll get notified the next time a video comes out. And right now, the two pathways that I'm going through are the Security Analyst, the SOC Level 1, as well as Pentest Plus. So there's going to be videos dropped at least once a day in a perfect situation, more than once a day, that covers those topics. So just make sure you like and subscribe and turn on the notification bell, and you'll definitely be notified. And yeah, that's about it. So let's jump into the introduction of the room and just some key topics before we review the tool itself. Okay, so NetworkMiner is an analysis tool. So it's specifically a network forensic analysis tool. It has some really cool features, as you'll see in a little bit, but it has some sniffing capabilities as well. But it's not promoted or marketed as a sniffer. It's mostly promoted and marketed as an analysis tool that can regenerate and reassemble transmitted files and do a lot of great things, as you will see in a little bit, specifically with PCAP files is what we're going to look at. You can work in Linux and Mac OS and some other operating systems as well. And I mean, it's a pretty well-rounded tool. You don't need a lot of experience with analysis or packet capture to kind of click around and learn it. It's very intuitive because it offers a GUI, as you'll see in a little bit. But yeah, it's, I mean, pretty easy tool to use. It's been used by a lot of law enforcement agencies, as you see over here, as well as a lot of people in incident response in corporations and so on. So it's not bad. I think it's kind of one of the we'll do a side-by-side comparison to Wireshark, so you actually kind of see what that looks like in a little bit. But to really understand what the power of it is and what it actually does, first we need to understand what network forensics is. Okay, so network forensics, it's a subdomain of forensics, but done on a network. And so what you're trying to answer is, who's the source IP and port address? What data or payload are they trying to transfer or take away? What is the destination IP and port address that they're attacking? You know, the time, of course, that they attacked, and why are they doing it? So what's the ultimate purpose and intention for doing something like that? The use cases are things like network discovery, reassembling packets, any data leakage or extraction that's happening, and to be able to detect that, detecting anomalies or malicious activity, and policy regulation compliance. So if somebody goes against policy or goes against regulations of the company, you also want to be able to detect that kind of stuff. The advantages are that there is network-based evidence available in the wild, meaning out in the real world you can capture network-based evidence, which is very important. There's ease of data evidence and collection without creating a lot of noise on the network and a lot of traffic. That's very important. It's hard to destroy network evidence, so that's another big thing, is that, you know, hackers or people who hacked system, they can typically destroy log files and stuff like that. But the actual network evidence itself, the traffic itself, is pretty tough to destroy. And so there's log sources that are available that you can kind of review. And of course, it's possible to gather evidence for memory and non-residential malicious activities, which basically means that the malware has to stay in the memory to avoid detection. However, a series of commands and connections live in the network. So it's possible to detect non-residential threats with network forensics tools and tactics. So the ones that don't live in the system and they're in the memory, it's possible to detect stuff like that. The challenges are, just trying to figure out what to do, what the next step is and what you should do next. Collecting enough data or evidence on the actual network itself. Typically, there isn't much data that's being captured because of a variety of different reasons, and there's unavailability of full capture on suspicious events for a lot of different reasons. Traffic is a lot of times encrypted, meaning that discovering the contents is not possible. So the encrypted data still can provide valuable information for hypothesis and like source and destination and use devices, stuff like that. There's privacy concerns, so there's a general data protection regulation as well as just other types of regulation that you have to adhere to. HIPAA is for medical industry, PCI is for payment card processing, FISMA is for federal government regulation. There's a lot of standard ports that are used, so sometimes there are non-standard ports that aren't often used for attacks that you need to figure out what those things are. There's time zone issues, whether they did it in a different time zone or you're trying to figure out something out of your current, business hour time zones. And of course, the lack of logs. So that's one of those big things, is that somebody can just, cover their tracks and destroy the logs after they're being on your machine, so that you don't know that they were there, right? So these are all of the different sources of forensics evidence. I'm not going to read all this. You're more than welcome to just pause the video and just look at the screen. But there's a lot of different sources of network evidence that are available. And there's two main purposes for network forensics, which is security operations and incident handling and threat hunting. Security operations is just day-to-day stuff that you're daily monitoring, and incident handling and response is something happened, and now you have to figure out what happened and what was the threat, so on and so forth. The data types in network forensics would be live traffic, traffic captures, and log files. As you'll see in a little bit, we're going to look at some captured traffic files. And the stuff that does deep analysis would be stuff like Wireshark, TCP dump, and T-Shark. What we're going to review is an overview type of an analysis. So we're not going to get a lot of deep, in-depth information or packet analysis using NetworkMiner. We're just going to get kind of like a helicopter view, an overview of what's happening and the things to look out for. So it doesn't go too in-depth. And if you want to learn more about in-depth packet analysis, I would recommend you check out the video on Wireshark. That we already did that, and it's available on the channel here. So moving on to what NetworkMiner actually is, and then we're going to jump into the tool overview. Okay, so NetworkMiner, in a nutshell, it does all of these things. So it sniffs traffic, it parses or basically kind of goes through PCAP files so you can find things easier. It analyzes protocols, it can fingerprint what operating systems were used, it can extract files from traffic, packet captures, it can grab credentials, which actually is kind of very useful, and it can even show clear text keyword parsing, so it can kind of extract clear text keywords and strings from the parsed PCAP files. There are two operating modes, which is sniffer mode and packet parsing and processing, and it has sniffer mode as a feature. It is not a sniffer. It's something to understand. It's more of a analysis tool, and it can help you find a lot of low-hanging fruit, easy to grab stuff. And then if you need to do deeper analysis, you would go into TCP dump or Wireshark, and then it has a sniffer mode. So it's just, you need to understand that it's not a sniffer. It's not the main purpose of NetworkMiner is not to sniff traffic for live packet capture. It's mostly to analyze packets that have already been captured, right? And so this is what we already kind of discussed in the overview. It's not useful in active sniffing. It's not useful for large PCAP investigation. There's limited filters, and it's not good for manual traffic investigation. And this is kind of a side by side between NetworkMiner and Wireshark. And a few things, there's not very many things. There are a few things that NetworkMiner does do that Wireshark doesn't do, and which is OS fingerprinting. It kind of does it right there on the screen, as you'll see in a little bit. And what else? It does host categorization that you'll also see in a little bit that Wireshark typically doesn't do. But there are more things that Wireshark does that NetworkMiner doesn't do. So protocol analysis, payload analysis, statistical analysis, filtering options, packet decoding, all of that stuff, they're very limited or non-existent on NetworkMiner. All right, so let's look at the overview of the tool. I mean, this is just kind of the menus. I'm gonna actually go through the exercise live so you can kind of see what a lot of these things look like. And we'll pull some information to answer these questions that they've already been answered. And I'm gonna go through the work with you just so you can see how we found these answers. And then you'll get a real live example of essentially what NetworkMiner looks like and what it can do. So I'm going to open up the virtual machine that we have attached here. It's in the split view mode right now, but what I want to do is I want to kind of give you a full screen view of it. So I'm just going to open this up in a new tab, and we should have it. There we go. We have it in full screen. I'm just going to minimize this one. And so what you're going to see is this, and on a different screen, I'm just going to go through the questions, and I'll read out the question, and then we'll find the answer on the screen that you're looking at right now. So the first part is that we want to analyze PCAP MX number 3, which is a PCAP file. So the first thing we got to do, we're just going to open up NetworkMiner, the packet, and then the directory, and then we got to click on this executable to actually open up NetworkMiner. And then you click on that, it takes a few seconds to load up, and it'll load up NetworkMiner itself, and then from that we get to open up the files. So here we go, we got NetworkMiner, you go file, you open up, and then we're just going to go to the desktop to the exercise file, and we want to analyze number 3, so MX3. And so we're going to double click on this thing, and it should open up. This one is not a very large PCAP file, so it loaded pretty instantly. Some of the other PCAP files are pretty big, so they're going to take a couple of minutes, sometimes maybe 10, 20, 30 seconds, but usually it takes a minute or two to load the other ones. So first and foremost, it says, what is the total number of frames? And in order to do that, you just go to the right here in the case panel, and you click on this, and then you right click and you say show metadata. And it'll open up this little window for you. It's kind of weird the way that it does it, because these things should already be expanded so you can actually see what's going on. But that's basically it right here. So it says frames, and then the value itself is 460. So that's the answer to the first question. What is the total number of frames? And we find it in the metadata that is available right over here. When you click on the actual file inside the case panel, you right click on it, and it shows you the option to get metadata, right? So the next question is, how many IP addresses use the same MAC address with the host 145 ending in 203? So if we just go under the host, which is what we load in, and the one that we want is this one, that is 145, and it ends with 203, and we just expand that, and it'll give us some detailed information. And then what we want right here is the MAC address information. So we expand this one, and then it says same MAC address, same MAC address. So there's two devices that have two different IPs, but they have the same MAC address. So it says how many IP addresses use the same MAC address with this host, 203, and this is it. So the answer is 2 different devices use the same MAC address. And the next question is, how many packets were sent from host ending in 223, which is the Linux host up here. And so we just expand this, and we're trying to see how many were sent. And so the sent option is right here, the sent line. And it says 72 packets, so pretty straightforward. The answer is 72. And then it says, what is the name of the web server under the same host right here? And so in order to find that, we just go down here. I believe it's in the host details. Yeah, so host details, web server, TCP/80, the web server name is Apache. And just like that, we answered our first 4 questions. Very, very simple and easy. And now we can move on to loading our next PCAP file, which is going to be PCAP number 4. So MX4 is what I'm going to open up. And I think this one loads pretty quickly as well. Yeah, there we go. We got it. And so now we're going to click on it. And once we click on it, usually it should load all of the information about this. So the first question is, what is the extracted username for this? And so in order to find that, there's a tab right here that says credentials. So you click on credentials and it gives you literally, there's a column for username and a column for the password that's attached to it. So the username is not just administrator, you actually have to include the hashtag B backslash. So it's hashtag B backslash administrator. That's the name of the username. And so that's the answer to that question. And it says, what's the extracted password? And the extracted password is actually this whole string right here. It's not this one right here where it says NTLM challenge, so on and so forth. And so because this is such a large hash, you can't really obviously type this one by one. So you can right click this and you can either copy the username or copy the password. And so to be able to answer the question that says, what's the password? You got to copy the password and then you transfer it to the question itself, which is right at the bottom right here. That basically says, what is the extracted password? And so I pasted it in here and that was it. And you got the correct answer. So these are the answers that we got, and you just saw how we got the answers. And thankfully, the machine itself loaded very quickly and so did the PCAP files. Yesterday when I was trying to do this, it took a very, very long time for those files to load. So I'm hopeful that the rest of this video is going to go smoothly as well, although I don't want to kind of shoot myself in the foot by setting false expectations. So it might give us some glitches. I'm just letting you know in advance, it might give us some glitches. So now we're going to go to the overview number 2. Okay, so overview 2, we're going to be looking at the files tab. We're going to look at the images tab, the parameters tab, keywords, messages, and anomalies. So these are all various tabs that are available inside NetworkMiner, sorry. And we're going to answer these questions. And we found the questions yesterday. I had to do some Googling to be able to find these answers. So I have that under my belt, at least this time, and it should make it a little bit easier. But let's see if we can actually do exactly what we're supposed to do, and you can see everything happen live. So I'm going to go here, and in order to answer those questions, we're going to load another PCAP file, which is actually a really large PCAP file. So I'm going to go here, I'm going to open, and it's the MX7 file. And so this last time took a long time, so let's see how long it's going to take for it to load this time. Okay, so it actually didn't take that long to load. It did take about a minute, I want to say. But before clicking on it, because this is kind of where the glitch came in yesterday, I think I clicked on it too early and I didn't give NetworkMiner the chance to really process kind of everything that was happening. So I'm going to give it a few seconds, and hopefully as soon as I click on it, it will be fine. So we're gonna click on this thing. Yeah, oh, there you go. Okay, not bad. Okay, good enough. It worked, and so there we go. Now we have all the credentials that loaded, so loaded fairly quickly. So the first question is, what is the name of the Linux distribution mentioned in files associated with frame 63075? And so for that, we actually have to go to the files tab right here. So when I click on this, it's gonna load a bunch of files that are associated with frames. So you see the frame number column here, and there's a file name, extension, yada, yada, yada. So there's a lot of information associated with the file. And what we want to look for is 63075. So there's a way that we can do this is by going here in the search filters, and instead of any column, we're going to go to frame number. And yesterday when I did this, the frame didn't even exist. So let's see if this shows up here. So 63075. And I'm going to click on apply, and it's not loading. So I don't think it exists in these exercise files, which means essentially that either this is outdated or it was updated. And so the exercise files that we're dealing with no longer have that packet in it, or that frame in it specifically. So if I clear it, all of the stuff comes back, And then there's a way that really you could just kind of run down the entire list right here and find 63,000, the section for 63,000. And that's kind of the second way that I did it, because I wanted to be like, okay, maybe the filter isn't working or something. So maybe I should just go here and manually look at this list. And so 63015, 63052, 093, and we're looking for 075. So it doesn't exist. The packet doesn't exist here. But this is how you search for frames and files associated with the frame. So I just needed you to see what this process looks like, what the work looks like. A lot of times when you took math class or algebra or something, the teacher didn't want you to just punch in the formula in your calculator and get the answer. They want you to do the work so they could see you doing the work. And so this is the idea here, is I just wanted you to see the work being done so that you can see how we got the information, or we would get the information. It's just that the frame doesn't exist, and that's the challenge with this one. So the way that I found the answer to this, because I'm a little bit, neurotic, and I couldn't leave the task undone without finding an answer. So I had to Google around for it, and I read some articles and blogs and stuff like that, and I was able to find the answer for this. And so I'm going to give you the answer in a little bit, but the packet itself, the frame itself, doesn't exist. And it's the same thing for the next question that's asking for the header that's associated with frame 75,942. So if we just go down a little bit further, or you can use the filter at the top to try to search for it. But if we go to 75,000, which is right down here, 75,942 does not exist, because it goes from 75,939 and then it skips to 947. So 942 does not exist either. And essentially I found the answer with research on the World Wide Web, right? So that was the problem with that. Now, for the next question, fortunately, there was actually a response that I was able to find, an actual image that I was able to find, which is asking for the source address of the image that's inside here. And so I basically kind of scrolled through all of these images down here, and it is this one, 2E570FD9. It's this thing. And so to be able to find the source IP and destination IP, you literally just leave your mouse over it for a second, and it shows that to you. So it's like you hover. You don't need to do anything. You just hover, and it shows you the source IP and the destination IP. And then you just punch that number into the answer, and so you would get it like that. So that's great. That was really, really nice. Then the next question is, what is the frame number of the possible TLS anomaly? And so you would find that under anomalies. Anything that has to do with anomalies, you would just go to the anomaly itself. And so this is the potential frame numbers that are associated with it, 36782 and 73,600. But that's not the right answer. So neither of these two are the actual right answer for the question that they're asking, which again begs the question, it's either updated or it's outdated. And so I had to find the answer for that, doing some Googling as well, and I'll just show you what the answers are when we get there. And so now we're just going to move to the next packet, which is packet number 9. So excuse me, the file, which is file number 9. And this one also took a little while to load, so I'm going to load it, and hopefully it will load faster than the other one did, or faster than it loaded yesterday. But we'll come back as soon as it does load. Okay, that was pretty good load time. I think that one also took maybe about a minute. So I'm hopeful that it's not going to crash on me. I also think that maybe because I loaded all of these at the same time, and they're still in the case panel, maybe that was one of the reasons, or that might be one of the reasons why it kind of glitches out. But we will see in a little bit. So I'm going to click on this case right here, and hopefully it will load. We only have a couple of questions for this particular case, so it shouldn't be too crazy. Let's see. Okay, there you go. So it loaded, and these are the potential anomalies that are attached to this. As you remember, the last one that we did had only 2,000 something files. So this one has 3,700 files, and it also has 886 hosts that were detected. So this is a much larger file. But the specific tab that we're interested in is the messages tab right here. So when we click on messages, it's just going to load a handful of messages. And the questions are, number one is which platform sent a password reset email? And so when you click through all of these, for the most part, there's this one notification that says, there's something monitoring your servers, so on and so forth. These conversations are all in response to somebody's question about, so it starts from here actually. So it says, does anyone have experience with an alternative to such and such? Then there's kind of a mailing list notification. Then the next person says, hosting what exactly? And then another notification. And then somebody says, cloud stuff. And then another notification, so on and so forth. So the only thing that is actually relevant to password or anything that even has the word password in it is this one message from Facebook that is directed to password net Flanders, and it doesn't even say in the contents that you have to do a password reset or something like that. It literally just says that it's to password net Flanders. And so Facebook is the organization, and I tested that as potential answer, and that was the actual answer. So the platform that sent a password reset email is Facebook. So that's the answer for that. And then the next question is, what is the email address of Branson Matheson? And this is Branson Matheson, so that's his email, branson@sandsite.org. And so that's the easiest answer so far that we were able to track down. And that's it. That's basically the questions that we needed to answer for this one. And they're right here. So CentOS for the first question that said, what's the name of the Linux distribution mentioned in packet 63075? That was the packet that we couldn't find. The Linux distribution is CentOS. The other packet that we couldn't find is 75942. And the header of the page that was associated with this is password nedab, which is also kind of the name of the email address, the receiver email address for the password reset. The source IP address of the image we were able to find, so that was great. And the frame number of the possible TLS anomaly, when we went to look at those two anomaly frames, unfortunately it wasn't this number. So we were able to find the anomalies and we were able to track it down. It just happened to be that none of those frames were the answer. And then we looked at the messages and we found the reset from Facebook, and then there was the email address of Branson Matheson. And so that was it. That was the questions for exercise 2 and for the tool overview. And then there's going to be a version differences that we're going to go through, and some closeout exercises that we're just going to have to find the answers for using the information that we just learned. And then we'll be done with the room. So yeah, fairly straightforward for the most part. And as I'm sure once you see, like when you see this, the kind of tool overview here, it's like, oh, okay, it is fairly intuitive. You just click around and you find things and right click to save things, so on and so forth. So it's not hard to use the tool. It's just that the glitch that I was having yesterday was with the fact that the freaking information didn't exist in certain frames and in certain packets. So that was the big part. So what I'm going to do before we continue is I'm just going to shut this down and I'm going to start it back up so that this queue right here clears. And I might even be able to do this and just delete them. Yeah, remove selected files from case. Remove selected files from case. We're just going to do that. There you go. So we could do that. But just to make sure, I'm literally just going to restart the whole software so that it can kind of start fresh. And then we'll move on to the next couple of tasks and we'll be done. Okay, so just a couple of differences in the versions that we're going to be looking at, especially in the practical exercises that we're going to get. There's general, it's 1.6 and 2.7 as far as the versions of NetworkMiner, and they offer various, or not various, but they offer a couple of different features that the other doesn't. So one offers one that the other doesn't, for example. So the processing of MAC addresses is something that's not available before version 2. So we're going to be, the one I think that we have access to is 2.72. So that's considered version 2 essentially. So MAC address processing and being able to find MAC addresses is available on version 2. Sent received packet processing, that's available on version 1.6. So it's not available after 1.6. It's such a weird thing, by the way. It's like, I don't know why they would do something like that. It's like, why not just have one entire version that offers everything? It's weird. Frame processing is not available after 1.6. 1.6 does frame processing, where it tells you, I want to say it's like the number of frames or something like that. And it doesn't really give you too much information of the content of the frame, but it does tell you the individual frames. It just shows it to you and the number of frames that are available. So this is, yeah, there you go. So this is the 2.7 screenshot, and this is the 1.6 screenshot, where it actually gives you the frame and then just some basic information about it. And that's pretty much it. So for frame processing, and then parameter processing is only available after version 2, and this is the thing that it shows you right here, where there's the parameter name and what's assigned to the actual value of the parameter, and the rest of the information, which is general connectivity information. And then the parameter processing on version 1.6 is a little bit, I want to say it seems similar, but I think it's different. So it says NetworkMiner versions after version 2 can handle parameters in much more extensive form. 1.6 catches fewer parameters. So that's basically it. I guess the volume of the parameters that come through on the same packet. 2.7 caught 41 parameters, whereas 1.6 caught 21 parameters, basically. Then you have clear text processing. Versions up to 1.6 can handle clear text data. This option provides all extracted clear text in a single tab. It is beneficial to investigate clear text about the traffic data. However, it is impossible to match the clear text data on packets. So this feature is not available after 1.6. Again, it seems weird to have something like that. And anyways, so this is the clear text version, or the clear text tab on 1.6. And this is kind of what it shows you as the clear text information of a packet. And so basic questions, right? Which version can detect duplicate MAC addresses? We already did that in the first exercises that we ran, and so it's version 2.7. Which can handle frames is 1.6, and which version can provide more details on packet details, and it's 1.6. And so that's it on the difference of the versions, and now we can go into the exercises task, and we'll be done with today's recording. All right, so the exercises are basically just a bunch of questions, and they're related to the case 1 PCAP and the case 2 PCAP files. And so I've already started the machine, and we're going to start NetworkMiner 1.6, and we're also, I think we should actually just try to answer the 1.6 version of the questions first, and then we'll go to the 2.7 version of the questions. So let's see which ones actually can help us on the, it doesn't say which versions would actually end up using, so we're just gonna kind of go through it, I guess. So the question on case 1 is, what is the OS name of the host, and investigate hosts between those two, and then how many bytes were transferred and received from there. What is the sequence number of frame 9? I think that's actually something that's done in version 1.6. Let's see, and what is the number of detected content types? That's something that can handle under parameters, so that's all good. The USB products brand name is going to be, so this is all case 2. So what is the USB products brand name, which is, it would be under our files. What is the phone model, and that's also going to be under files and images. Source IP of the fish image, and what is the password of Homer, so that's going to be under credentials. And what is the DNS query of frame 62001. So we are going to try to find all of this with the information in 1.6 first. So I'm going to open up the case 1 capture file. Whoops, we're going to go here, exercise case 1, and that's going to load real quick. I love the fact that it loaded very quickly. Very, very excited about that. So the question that is relevant to version 1.6 of NetworkMiner on case 1 is, what is the sequence number of frame 9? And so we would find that under frames, and we have that right here. So we just go to frames, and then frame 9 is right here. You expand frame 9, and I think it's under TCP where it gives us, yeah. So TCP gives us the sequence number, and it's 2AD77400, and that's the sequence number of frame 9, which is easy enough. And the other question that is relevant to version 1.6 has to do with case 2. So we're going to try to load case 2 real quick, and hopefully that loads pretty quickly. Well, the load took, I think that was actually maybe 10-15 minutes, maybe even longer than 15 minutes for NetworkMiner 1.6 to load case 2. Granted, there was 15,000 parameters that loaded, which is gigantic. It says there's more than 69,000 frames, but there's only 1,000 frames that are populated on the screen here. And unfortunately, the frame that I'm looking for is frame 62,001, and that's not on here, which means I chose the wrong version of NetworkMiner to try to find the information that I was looking for. So don't make this mistake, please. Don't use version 1.6 to try to answer the question. And I mean, you're gonna get the answers, so it's not like you're not gonna have the answers. It's just that don't waste time if you're going through the exercises for yourself and trying to find the information. Don't waste time with NetworkMiner 1.6, with the exception of one freaking question, which was the sequence number of frame 9 that was on case 1. Other than that, it's utterly useless. So I have both of these loaded, so I'm not going to close this just in case I do need the NetworkMiner 1.6 for whatever reason. But I'm just going to load up NetworkMiner 2.7, and I'm going to load up the case files. And from there, we're going to answer the rest of the questions, and hopefully it will not take forever for it to load, although I feel like it probably will. So case 1 loads very quickly. So for that, we could just try to use these things to answer the questions that we have so far. So question 1 of case 1, because we kind of skipped around and I answered the other ones because I thought I would need version 1.6 first, although whatever. Question 1 of case 1 says, what is the OS number of the host that ends with 122, which is this thing right here? And you just kind of populate it, and then you do OS Windows under OS, and the OS name is actually this entire section, including the dash and the space. So it's Windows space dash space Windows NT, NT4, sorry, and that's the entire answer for OS Windows. What is the OS of host 122, or the one that ends with 122? And then the next one is, we want to investigate the traffic between 122 host as well as the one that ends with 91, which is this thing right here. And so the question is asking how many data bytes were received from 91 to 122 through port 1065. And so this shows us data packet sent, and then this is outgoing sessions. And so to 122 on port 1065 is what we're looking for. So we're going to look at that. And then so it says 122, 1065 were sent. And then the client on port 364, 192 was sent. This is kind of confusing. The answer is actually 192. At first I thought it was 432. But when I tried that, it came through as an incorrect answer. And I think it's the phrasing of the question that makes it a little bit confusing. So it says, how many data bytes were received from host 191 to 122 through port 1065? If we go down on this one, it has the incoming sessions on port 1065, and it shows us that on port 1065, 432 was sent, and then 191, 192 was sent. And again, there's no received or anything in here. It just says that both of them show sent, but this one is under incoming sessions, this one is under outgoing sessions, and kind of from, I guess, just from process of elimination, we can come down to the fact that it was 192 bytes that were sent and received. So that's the answer to that. And then we have question number 3 that says between 122 and 21. So we can shrink this one back down, and we're going to refer to host 1, the one that ends in 21. And then basically the same question, right? So how many bytes were received from 122 to 21 on port 143? And so if we look at this one on port 143, there's a server, and the answer right here is 20,769 data bytes, and that is the actual answer for that question as well. The next question is, what is the sequence number of frame 9, which we already did using version 1.6 of NetworkMiner. And then the last one is, what is the number of detected content types? And this is one of those tricky little things, because it's under parameters, and there's 276, and then we need to alphabetize parameter name, and you see how there's content types here, right? So there's content types here, and then under the content type, multi-part, text plain, that seems to be 2, right? And then 2, so it's basically 2 so far. And then you go down, oh, you know what? That's obnoxious, you guys. When I did this yesterday, there was way more than 2. That's what's so annoying about this, is that when I did this yesterday, there were maybe hundreds of line items for content type, and there were a bunch of different variations. I think it was like 9 different and maybe 10 different variations of parameter values, and this time it actually shows 2, and the answer is 2. So there's multi-part mix and text plain, and those are the only 2 content types that exist inside of this. So thankfully, this time it actually worked, and I'm very, very happy about that. And so now, inside of version 2.7, so NetworkMiner 2.7, we can open up the second case file, which, okay, in this thing, it's loading much faster. Version 1.6 literally at least took 15 minutes to load, which is terrifying when you think about it. So this thing is going to load hopefully within the next few seconds, and then we can answer the rest of the questions. I spoke too soon. It crashed. I had to restart everything again, including the virtual machine and NetworkMiner 2.7, and I just finished uploading case 2. Granted, that entire thing, so the crashing and then restarting and reloading, all of that still took less time than version 1.6 did when it was trying to process this file. So, you know, whatever, it's fine. But we're here, and I'm just gonna wait until it's fully loaded before I click on anything on the freaking screen, because I really don't want it to crash on me again. But we're almost at the home stretch. We have like a few things that we need to find before we can just call it and end this recording session. And I had to do it for you. I'm literally doing it for you, because if it was me, I would have been over this and I would have moved on with my life. But I made a commitment to you, the viewer, and I hope that I hope you can appreciate it. Okay, so the question, the first question under case 2 is, what is the USB product's brand name? And then when you look at the hint, it says, investigate the files, no need for external search, which I'm guessing means like you don't need to search the internet. And so if we look at stuff like this, I guess maybe we could do under extension, which would bring it to BMP. Maybe it'll show us if it's like a USB or something, or a machine, which is not. So it's not under there. And I could do, oh, here we go. I see a USB right here. And let's see if there's any information in here that's actually useful about the USB, which might not be. So there's USB LAN zip, and then USB LAN zip. Let's see if we right click it, if anything comes up. Nothing comes up when we right click it. So I'm gonna direct or organize by the name of the file, and so we have now 4 USBs that show up here, and none of them have any kind of information that we could potentially use. And if we go under the after the timestamp and we get to the details, there's still nothing here, unfortunately, that we can use. So there's nothing in this particular situation that is useful. I read through one of the tutorials that there's something here for a picture of a USB drive. And so when you look at the picture, there's an AX8877-2, which is, I think, the actual model number. So 8877-2, let's see what we can get on Google. AX8877-2 is a USB that, what brand is it? Let's see if it shows up anything with the actual brand of this thing. Okay, there we go. This is the actual brand right here. So it's an ASICS USB, ASIX. And so it says, what is the brand name of the USB? And the answer is actually ASICS, so ASIX. And we found it, instead of going through the files, we actually found it going through the images. Now the next one is, what is the name of the phone model? And that we can also find by going through the images. And basically what we're trying to do is we're trying to find a picture of a phone in these images. There's a picture of random shit, and look at all these Simpsons characters. So Ned Flanders is definitely in here. And we just need to find the phone picture. So let me see if I can find the phone picture. Okay, so there's a phone picture right here. So you got to go after the Simpsons pictures, and it's a little bit after that. There are a few rows after that. And so it's a Lumia phone. And the hint says, oh, let me zoom out a little bit. The hint says to use the files and images. So we have Lumia as the name. So if I go to files again and try to see if I can find anything for Lumia. So we can search for that this time and see if there's anything that shows up when I search for Lumia. There's 2 things that show up. One of them is store Lumia nav, and then there's another one that's Lumia 535. And so Lumia 535, and it's a JPEG image, and I think that's actually the name of the image itself. So it's the Lumia 535. Is that the name of the image? No, it's not. So it's the nav image, the store Lumia nav image, but the actual name is, oh, right here. This is the other one. This is the other picture of the Lumia phone, which is MMD Lumia 535. So that's the actual model name, is Lumia 535, or model, phone model, phone model is Lumia 535. That's the answer. So what is the source IP of the fish image? So we need to find an image of a fish and get the source IP of the image of the fish. So let me see if I can find that stinking image. But I mean, you can kind of figure out, because we did this in the last exercise as well, or the last task or something. We actually found one of the images, and from that we were able to find the source IP. So you kind of know the process by now, but just to give us a little bit of closure, I'm going to try and find this image of a fish in all of these thinking images, and then from there I'll get the IP address. Okay, so here's the image. It's 2 fishes actually, and it's 50.22.95.9 is the IP address that's associated with this image, the source IP address, and that is indeed the correct answer. And so now it says, what is the password of Homer? So that's going to be under credentials, and we have a lot of names over here. So what we need to do is find Homer as the username. So we're just going to organize the users by alphabet, and we're going to go down to H and find Homer. And Homer is right here. And so he lives in Springfield, so of course it would Spring and then 2015, and that is the actual password for Homer. And the last one is, what is the DNS query of frame 62001? And that's what I thought I had to do with version 1.6, and that's why I kind of loaded it with version 1.6. But the issue with that is that it didn't even show up in that. So to be able to work around that, I think I need to find some other information about frames and potential sessions maybe, and maybe it's in the session. So if we go into sessions and try to find the frame 62001, we might be able to find that information. So let me see if I can find it here. Okay, so it's actually under DNS, so it's not under sessions, so that's my bad. So DNS 62001 is the frame number, and what we're looking for is the DNS query of these things, and so they seem almost identical. And so the DNS query is pop.gmx.com, and that is indeed the answer. And so since I was able to find packet or frame numbers and packet frames and stuff like that under several other tabs, I want to kind of go back to task 2, where it asked us to find frame 75,000 and 63,000, and see if there's any possibility that maybe I missed it in the other things, because I was looking under files, and so I think I looked in the wrong direction or in the wrong place to find it. So I'm going to reload MX7, the file MX7, and then from there we're going to try to see if we can relocate those two other frames, and hopefully that will actually be the problem that I had earlier, and that's why I didn't find it, and I can really truly give myself some closure with this thing. So once this loads, I will come back and I will tell you if I found them. Hopefully I will. I really hope I will. Okay, it crashed again. And I restarted it again, and I think we're good now. And really all I'm trying to do is just figure out the answers to this specific, we have the answer, so that's not really what I'm trying to figure out. I'm just trying to see where it was located. And so frame 63075 originally, because they say, the only thing that they say is that NetworkMiner 2.7 can help. So they don't say where it's located. And originally I thought it was under files, because files all have frame numbers attached to them. But there are several other things that we can look at. Sessions is one of them. So sessions potentially can have a frame number attached to it. And so maybe it actually is going to be under sessions that we can find this. So 63075, enter, and there's nothing here. There's potentially another one that could be under DNS that also has frames attached to it. So let's see if we can find it here, 63075, and it's not here as well. So it's I feel like the original synopsis or the original takeaway was correct, that it probably doesn't exist, but I just want, I'm a little bit obsessive in that regard, and I really just want to see if I can find where this thing exists. And so it wasn't under DNS, we couldn't find it here. Maybe 75942 might be here, and that's not here either. Maybe 75942 might be here, and it's not here either. So the only other place that it could be is this thing, is the files column, but unfortunately it doesn't exist. Oh no freaking way, you're kidding me. It just showed up. God, that's so annoying. Okay, so here we go. We found it. It's here. God, maybe the previous times it didn't load fully or something. Whatever. Okay, so 75942, the question is, what is the header associated with this thing? And we can just kind of go to the details tab by just going to the right here. and restructured file path typically has some information. We can also get, let's see if I can get any information on this. Let's see if we could do file details, if that'll give us anything. Okay, here we go. So header information is here, and it says what is the header of the page, and so it's literally right here. Password ned ab, and that's the actual answer. So maybe I just needed to really give it some time to load, because I did kind of speed through the rest of that and watch. Yeah, this one is also here. So yeah, I mean, I'll give you this as a tip. When you're loading any of these things, after it says that it has loaded, give it another 5 minutes, give it another 10 minutes, because there's a lot of frames and there's a lot of packets, and sometimes it just doesn't fully load. And I think when you click on the screen or anything in the panel or anything like that, it either freezes the loading or something happens, because this just seems like a slow machine. Out of all of the machines, this is by far the slowest virtual machine that I've used. And yeah, so the question for this one, for this frame, says what is the Linux distribution that is associated with it, and it's literally right here, CentOS.org. That's one. And then I think we can even find information if we just look at the file details, and it might even be able to show us information about it over here as well. So right here, CentOS, CENTOS. I feel so much better that I was able to find these packets, because it was really bugging me. It was very, very much bugging me. And maybe now we can even find that one anomaly that was missing. No, the anomaly. Oh no, look, I swear. This is so odd, you guys. This is the actual number of the anomaly. 362.55. That's the correct answer. So, I don't know. Maybe, a fifth time is a charm or whatever. I don't know how many times I've reloaded this by now. But it worked. It finally worked. I finally got the information that I was looking for. I will say that it took... I left the system alone. Like, I stopped the recording. I started NetworkMiner. I loaded the file, and I just walked away for, I think, 15 minutes or something. And I came back, and it was finally downloading, obviously, but all of this information is now here. So maybe that's what needed to happen. But whatever it is, I finally found the answers on the screen, which I'm super freaking happy about. And yeah, that's basically it. And we're done. This is literally it. That was it. We are done. We are done with all of the questions. We found all of the questions in a live environment, and we answered all of the questions in the exercise environment, and we can now conclude. And so congratulations, we finished. I'm very happy that you stuck it out with me this whole time, and hopefully you learned something about NetworkMiner. It does overview analysis of packets specifically. It's not a primary sniffer, so just keep that in mind. And you can use it to overview traffic and move forward with Wireshark and TCP dump for more in-depth investigation of the same packets, right? So you could use the same PCAP file in NetworkMiner for an overview, and then go through detailed and deep dives using Wireshark or TCP dump. There's also more on the different rooms that are here. So I've already done Wireshark. I did 3 videos on Snort, so you can definitely go find that. Those are kind of more recent, so they should be not too... they should actually be the videos right before this video, or maybe a couple of videos before this particular video in the timeline. So you can definitely find those. Wireshark, I've done this entire room, so we actually have this entire room recorded, so you're more than welcome to check that out. And the only thing that's missing is Brim, and Brim is probably going to be the next one that I'll do, or at least the next one in packet capture and packet analysis, so on and so forth. So that is it for this room. I am very happy that we were able to finish it, and we can move on with our lives. Okay, so as mentioned before, only subscribers can deploy this particular room, and I do recommend it just so you can kind of get the hang of the flow of NetworkMiner and just click around and things like that. If you do not have your paid subscription to TryHackMe, you're more than welcome to get it yourself, or you can use the link in the description below to get yourself a $5 discount, and it'll bring it down from $12 to $7. So that's the way that works, and you're more than welcome to do it. If you don't want to do that, if you want to just work on this on your own machine, you're more than welcome to. You can download NetworkMiner from a variety of different sources, and it comes, it's open source, so you can get it for free, and you can just walk through the app and use it with this video, kind of use it as a side-by-side. And we put out a bunch of videos, or at least I try to do at least one a day, and sometimes multiples a day. So all you got to do for that is just make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so that you get notified the next time a video comes out in either the security analyst pathway or the pentest plus pathway. And then we're going to end up going into a lot of the more advanced rooms as well. I am very glad that you hung out with me today. I hope that you found this video useful. It's your boy Hank Hackerson with Hank Hacks Hackers. And if nobody else loves you, Hank loves you. Peace, love, and chicken grease. And I will talk to you soon. See you in the next video.